Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Our first item will be a pledge to the flag. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to call Patrolman Blake Ensig forward. Evening, how are you? Good. So if you could raise your right hand. I state your name.
I
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the United States of America,
Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and ordinances of Springersbury Township,
and ordinances of Springersbury Township,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
I pledge to obey and enforce the law
I pledge to obey and enforce the law
without discrimination
without discrimination
under federal, state, or local laws.
under federal, state, or local laws.
Congratulations.
I've done more of these than I care to admit because it dates me. And I like to know that old, but every time I get a chance to come up here and swear a new person in, I still get excited. So, Blake, congratulations! You just won yourself a ticket to the greatest show on earth. This job is an amazing profession, and it comes with some incredible responsibility and commitment as well. And commitment that we take very seriously at Springersbury Township. Commitment to township, to the community, to the law enforcement profession. So what we like to do is I like to give a small token at the beginning of your career. So if you ever get into some days later on where you're sitting and wondering, why did I choose to do this? You can look back and you can remember this, and it reminds you why you stepped up to take this call. I want to read it here real quick. It's called the Springersbury Badge. My lawful appointment and my oath give life and significance to this badge. It is not something that can be earned, it is bestowed. It is a symbol of power and authority granted by law through public trust. It transforms carefully selected community members into guardians whose mandate is to honorably serve and vigilantly protect their communities. My acceptance of this badge requires a significant commitment, a commitment requiring focus, self-development, humor, courage, and pursuit of my personal potential. I will honor all that my badge represents for the brief time that I am privileged to be entrusted with its care. So this is going to be your copy of our badge. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations. You bet. Congratulations.
We have had no executive session since our last meeting. At this time, I would like to open up the floor to communication from citizens. The thing I'd like to do is introduce Kristen Phillips Hill, our state senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to the board. My name is Kristen Phillips Hill. I have the honor of serving as the state senator in the 28th district, and as a result of redistricting, Springersbury Township is in the 28th senatorial district. I'm very excited to work with you to achieve the common good for all of the people of Springersbury Township, as well as the citizens of the 28th district. It is an honor, and I'm excited to be first in a long time resident of York County to represent Springersbury Township. So previously chaired the Senate Communications and Technology Committee, was recently elected as the Majority Caucus Chair. So I'm no longer chair of the standing committee, but I'm the vice chair of the Senate Communications and Technology Committee, serve on appropriations, aging and youth, banking and insurance, and state government, and a host of other caucuses and committees that are bicameral, bipartisan. But really just wanted to make sure you knew who I am. You know where to find me. It's senatorkristen.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and if you ever need me, gave Mr. Worcester my card to dispense to all of you, please just call. So again, I'm excited, honored to represent Springersbury Township, and look forward to working with you all. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for coming. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor to anyone else who would like to address the board today. Do we have any in attendance that would like to attend? If anyone in attendance on Zoom would like to address the board, please click the raise hand button. Yeah. I just want to make sure everybody understands. Sir, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Steve Kramer, 3612 Country Court, York, Pennsylvania, 17406. And I came in about the new contract with the Penn Waste. And I've been a resident of Springersbury for over 20 years now. And we've always had options as far as the contract with the trash hauler. But now we don't. And I would like to understand what the rationale is for eliminating those options, especially when the price went up, my bill went up 47%. So can you explain that, and what can we do to bring those options back? Can we void that contract and get a new contract?
So we can't void that contract, but I asked our manager to prepare for this discussion tonight, and he can answer some of these questions. Mark, would you?
Our previous contract, which expired at the end of last year, was a 5-year contract. The options in that contract are the same options in this contract, so no options were limited. The previous contract, the 2 options were you could provide your own containers, 3 bags up to 3 32-gallon bags, which equals 96 gallons. The difference was the other option was a 96-gallon toter provided by the contract. That was $6 difference per quarter for that option. So the volume, were the only 2 options. The volume was the same. The difference was you get a toter or you don't have a toter. This contract, you still have the option to provide your own cans, 3 32-gallon, or the toter. The difference is the price is the same.
Well, years ago, there was a third option for like 1 bag. I don't know when that ended.
It wasn't in this most recent contract.
Well, maybe not, but why was that option on there? So essentially there's no options now. It's all the same price, no matter how much trash you put out.
Correct. I can't speak to any former contracts. I only can speak to the most recent contract.
Why was these 2 options you're talking about are essentially the same thing? So in that sense, there's no option. The bill's the same. At least there was a $6 or $7 difference in the previous contract. So why was that?
That was up to the contractors to provide the price. We didn't specify you have to charge it at the same rate.
So this was bid out broadly.
Yeah.
There were only 2 qualified bidders that actually responded. So we need a trash contract. Bidding it again or whatever it is that you're asking us to do isn't going to change that, because
if you would provide 2 options. I mean, I didn't see the request for proposal, so I don't know what you asked them to provide. But it sounds like you didn't seriously consider different options if what you asked for that essentially.
Well, that's not completely true. So the contractors, they don't want to pick up bags of trash and individually put them in. They're short-staffed as it is. They're having a difficult time finding people to even do this job. It would actually cost them more money to not do the toters. A lot of the charge that has been increased has been, well, first of all, because it was a 5-year contract and the prices were relatively locked in. Prices have changed quite dramatically over the last couple of years. Gasoline has gone up. Labor force
40%, 50%.
when you take it all into account, yes. So
A lot of people I talk to are really unhappy about the increase.
It's across the
We've
board.
never seen
I
an
live in
increase
Spring
like
Garden
this.
and I got a 50% increase.
Well, I know, but if you put different options in it, it's unfair to people
So
who you have, a household that has several kids and they put out a lot of trash, and then you have a household where it's maybe one person and they're being charged the same amount. That's unfair.
so if we took a look at what options would be, how do we know who's got which option? Are we going to have the truck drivers
Yeah,
with lists?
why not?
Because they're having a hard time keeping those people. Their turnover is tremendous. There is no way that they could train people to
They
to
can't
change
know which house is paying what amount and pick up the
not the
trash.
drivers. Not the
I see
drivers.
what they do. I see people put 10 bags, they take them all.
Yeah, and the reason for that is
Well,
they have
shouldn't.
no
They
idea.
shouldn't. I mean, then you just have one person put out one bag. Where's the equity in that? How's that fair? Everybody, they're paying the same amount. There should be, what about a single bag option? Where you pay for a tag and you put your bag out with a tag on it. How about something like that? I mean, have you considered how this is affecting all the people in the community? It's gonna be over $100 before this contract is over, $100 a quarter. Coming from about 50 something. That's like double. I don't think
I don't remember.
I don't think you
But in the
consider.
prior contracts, the one bag option, and again,
That's been a long time.
it's been a long time, but one of the issues was that option was getting very expensive because that's the
That's
trash
actually the most
haulers wanted to get
expensive.
away
Yeah.
from.
That's the
from
most
dealing with it.
expensive thing for the trash hauler to do,
That's
is
just
to
my
try to keep
recollection.
track of bags.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, as the chairman indicated, they want to go basically to having, the one-arm lift fees, so they don't have workers.
It's not what they want, it's not the resident.
But they're the ones that pick up the trash.
Well, you can find somebody else to pick up the
You
trash.
can't.
No, we
do it.
can't.
We did it. We bid it
That's
out.
the problem.
Two bidders.
So,
It's
so
not.
if I can jump in, there were only two bidders and we took the one that was way less expensive. The other bidder was even higher, much higher than the one we did. So we don't
Nobody
have-
will
we only
do
had
an
two to pick
option
from, A or
where
B.
they're going to take individual bags.
Mhm.
And if you tried to force that on that bid, then you would be paying more for one bag than the guy that has a toter that they can pick up with an arm and dump right in the truck. That's just the reality of the way it is right now. We have bid this out. We have signed a contract. We took the lowest bidder. It is the best option for citizens of the township. And I don't know what to
Said
tell you.
But I mean, there's a lot of people I know, there's just,
Well,
where you put up.
nobody's happy
bag or
about-
bag every other week.
Nobody's happy about paying more money. I'm not happy about it. I'm paying it too. But
Well, I
that's
think
the
you dropped the
option.
ball and not having an option in the contract for people. There should be more than one option,
Why?
so that people feel like they're not being overcharged to have their trash collected. If they're not paying it, they put out one bag. You shouldn't be charged the same as somebody puts out 10 bags. I mean,
Respectfully disagree. We spent a lot of time, the township spent a lot of time working through this with all of the options that are available. If you want to put a single bag out, it will cost you more money than you're paying right now. I can tell you that because the trash haulers do not have the extra people, if they have to put an extra person on a truck to pick up individual bags to throw in the truck, you're going to be billed at a higher rate than the person that has it toted. That's the simple economics of the trash haulers and who is willing to pick up the trash. So I don't know what else to tell you at this point. I understand that you're not happy about it.
We're stuck with this contract for 5 years.
Stuck with it. Actually, that will help keep the costs from going up
Well,
even
you
higher.
have, it's built in there, 5% increase over the next 5 years. It's going to be up over $100. Why couldn't it have been done in a shorter time frame, like a 2-year contract?
So if you think that you have another trash hauler that will do what you think you want to do in 5 years' time, probably the best bet for you would be to run for election to the Board of Supervisors so that you have some say in the matter. Because I know that the township put this out to bid. They were very careful about the requirements that they had out there. They worked very diligently with the only people who were willing to pick up our trash. And we got the best option that we could possibly get. So if you think you have a better
And
option.
you can't opt out. There's no opt out for residents.
No.
No,
Well, why couldn't you add an opt out option?
So that we have bags of trash laying around because somebody opted out.
Take my
and-
trash.
Well, you
myself.
might. But how about the people that don't?
They can take their trash themselves too.
And if they don't,
Well, then
who
you,
picks it up?
then you cite them for
And
not
then-
disposing of their trash.
Yeah, that's just not a tenable situation.
Well, it's not tenable to me to be paying almost $100 for trash pickup when they put out one bag. Is there any,
Feel that way.
is there any way to get that contract voided and solicit new bids?
no. That ship is set,
None at all?
none at all. The ship is set.
Even a petition,
Nope,
that 5-year contracts written in stone then?
yes, it is. Only if the contractor doesn't, only if the contractor doesn't form with the township, and that would be a nightmare to go through. But other than that, contract's the contract. You gotta, the township has to honor.
Well, maybe next time you can, let citizens know what's going on. 'Cause, I mean, it hit me.
This was all in public meetings,
Well, I know, but.
just like
most people
this
don't
meeting
attend
tonight.
meetings. And they get all of a sudden blindsided by a 50% higher trash bill.
I believe it was in the newsletter also.
It was.
With bulk order?
I don't know, but
Okay, well. I'm not happy about it. Thanks.
I appreciate you coming in, at least, and voicing your opinion. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Engineering report, Anna.
There are no updates or changes to the report we submitted. If there are any questions, if you can answer.
Any questions for our engineer? Thank you. And now our civil engineering report, John.
Real quickly, just 2 quick updates. First of all, right around Christmas time, we did receive some communications from Sheets about the right of way at Haynes and Industrial Highway. So they're trying to get us our right of way out there. Looks like they're making some progress because I had talked to Charlie about condemnation and hopefully we got to get on that path. Secondly, in my report, there was a Thursday evening zoning hearing board meeting of 3760 East Market Street. And the proposal was for a and placing the damaged vehicles not behind the building, alongside of it. We talked briefly about this yesterday at our comprehensive plan meeting with the zoning hearing board. Because of a floodplain issue there and the fact that they didn't meet the criteria, voted against the special exception and the alternative variance and voted them down. But I think it would have been a pretty bad eyesore for the old Turkey Hill. And there are other uses that are allowed in that structure. That zoning area probably wasn't a very pleasant or aesthetic looking facility. So I think the zoning area would be a proper decision. And to mention that Tim Holmes did a lot of good work in researching, make that case and prepare for it.
Any questions for our engineer?
I'll also mention Davies Drive, the York Excavating has some contractors in hand. As a matter of fact, York Water Company is proposing to run a water main through there, and they have submitted an application. I think it's going to fall right in line with our work. So there won't be any kind of delay or anything like that. That's a separate project from our, of course, our construction project.
So when do we break ground?
You keep asking about cutting that ribbon. We're going to get you. We'll get you the scissors and the ribbon, and as soon as we got a schedule from the contractor. But
Okay, so the schedule.
210 days to perform.
9, 10.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then moving on to our consent agenda, we have items A through N. Are there any on here that anyone would like to have removed for further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through N as listed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Bids, proposals, contracts, and agreements. We have authorization to execute site improvement and escrow agreement at York Galleria Mall for the sidewalk.
This is in conjunction with the Red Robin subdivision, subdividing that on.
And Charlie, I presume you're good with that.
Yes, I reviewed it. Yes.
And who's executing? Are we board or we're authorizing the manager?
I think we have the chairman. So.
Looks like it's.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the respective member of the Board of Supervisors to execute the site improvement and escrow agreement with gallery.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Subdivisions and land development. Subdivision 2022-000. That's got to be 2023, doesn't it? No, 2022-000. Or this goes all the way back to that.
That is correct.
It was submitted in November of last year.
And it was only the fourth one.
Subdivision plans, yes. We've had our share of land development plans.
Okay.
Not our share of subdivision plans.
It just surprised me.
Yeah. If I may, for a quick moment, just to give you a little synopsis of this, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Akins following this briefly. This particular subdivision plan came forth after a zoning hearing board situation arose in regard to a property owner in this condominium looking to do an expansion of the property itself, where then it encroached on the adjacent property line. So there was in essence a zero lot line between the two. There was no setbacks. So the zoning hearing board ultimately in their decision said that the applicant needs to do a subdivision to remedy the situation. So that's what has brought us to this. They had a timeline of a year to do it. And we did it in about 6 months. So this is the situation at hand. They're combining lots to alleviate the scenario where they're encroaching on another property line. And then they're making one other small adjustment off so we can respond to the board as well.
I do have the plans here to get signed tonight. They're already a request. And there's actually these one comment that I have here has been addressed on this plan that I've got in hand tonight for signature. So it's making you aware that the applicant has remedied that comment. And that was after I submitted the document to the board of supervisors. That said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Akins representing the applicant.
Good evening, thank you very much. Scott Akins with Akins Engineering. Mr. Heilman's synopsis is pretty much right on. The only part that he left out there was the additional 0.04 acres that we're going to be swapping between the two townhome developments. Just to clean up that driveway issue. Yes, correct. It is a very, very simple plan, just a land swap. There's no additional construction or utility hookups or anything involved with this. Again, we've complied with all the township county comments, and we're hoping, unless there's any questions or any other objections, that we'll be getting an approval this evening.
Questions for Mr. Akins?
This is more a question for Randy. So what matter was resolved on the new plan that we have here tonight? It's a condition.
They made acknowledgement on the plan itself to revise the relevant deeds when they're recording the plan. So it in fact executes the plan. And they have placed a note on the plan to that effect.
So does that negate the need for the condition of the approval?
Correct.
So the two waivers are still required.
That is correct. And as I indicated, that comment was addressed after I had submitted this document.
And we're not concerned about the waiver to locate all the man-made features on the property on the plan.
No, and the planning commission endorsed that as well.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to plan number SD 2022-0004, I move for approval subject to the following waivers: section 289-14 minor subdivision plan, section 289-11.b 19 location of all man-made features on the property.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, with reference to subdivision plan SD 2022-0004, preliminary final minor subdivision plan for Avalon Place condominium plan, I move to approve the plan as presented with no condition.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Again, I have to get the planning commissioners then to sign the plan as well.
And yes,
Something that
since
the board will sign to see.
since we approved it after the meeting, we sign the plans.
Sure. Thank you.
Randy, you sure we don't need a traffic study or a land development?
After this one.
Stormwater, just want to make sure.
We have some of those forthcoming, by the way. So.
Communication from supervisors. Anybody have anything?
I'm excited to say that we kicked off our comprehensive plan update activities last evening. I was joined by Supervisor Cox, Engineer Luciani, Township Manager Hodgkinson, and a lot of our friends from Marion Hall's organization, CDM Smith. Randy also was in attendance. Anyone else? We had delegates from the Planning Commission, the Zoning Hearing Board, and Recreation. So it was great to see participants from our various boards were engaged, and county planning. So I'm sure I've missed a few other people that joined us. Unless we're running our comprehensive plan and have a plan laid out to work through that effort through 2023 and 2020.
Thank you, Charles. Anybody else? Charlie, solicitors report. I
Nothing-
was very surprised to see one on the list tonight. New Year's resolution.
Yes.
Usually when they're usually broken by now, Charlie.
Well, the best thing would be that I don't have anything to write. Right? But we'll try and keep it up, but nothing to add.
Any questions? Managers report, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to add to my written report.
So the dates moved out again. Any thoughts as to whether that's going to hold?
Every time I've given you a date prior, I've lied to you. Hopefully I'm not lying.
No, you told the truth
I
to the
told
best
the
of
truth.
your ability at the time.
If they're lying to me, I'm lying to you, I guess. So, at some point in time, a date has to be the true date. They are making the two areas of the building are very close to one, meaning the admin side and the police side is not very far behind. But a lot of the flooring's down in the admin side, not all of it, a lot of it. So I do think that that new date has reasonable merit to it.
So I think I had mentioned to you before, I had some concern about some of the sub outs for the ceilings and some of the problems that you've had with installation there. I would just like to make a note of that, and that I'm not sure that the sub outs are actually, we're getting the value from that that the general is claiming. I think that they're taking advantage.
Understood. So we have very little control over that now. In Pennsylvania municipal law, you have to be very careful specifying a specific brand. You always have to allow an alternate. It doesn't mean that you have to lower your standards.
So if there's no alternate that meets those standards, they have to hold with the standard.
Correct.
Okay. I would just suggest that they're probably not able to meet those standards, even though they might be telling you that they can. Just from experience.
Do you want the new date recorded in the minutes? I don't have the new date.
The new date for, I don't think that it's.
And because of the issue with the old police building being torn down and the work there, that would still mean that we're pushing out well beyond that to put admin back into the building.
Right, and until they remove the existing police station, do all that work, because the entrance at Mount Zion Road doesn't change, but the pathway into the site changes. So until they do all that work, and they need weeks where they can't have traffic coming in and out.
Not going to be until June or so.
We probably will not open to the public until late May or June.
If they hold the current dates.
If they go to
And don't make you a liar. Any questions for the manager?
I have one question. I just constantly look at that Griffith Stevens and Lee grant, RTAP, and wonder, I see there's no update, but.
There's update, we're working on it, but there's nothing of significance to report. What I mean by that is Abby is in regular communication with them and Buchard Horn to get the voluminous amount of paperwork that they need. So that continues, but so it hasn't died, but we haven't gotten to the next step yet because of all that background stuff.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what that grant was. What was it?
It's the RCAP grant for the police station project.
Ordinances and resolutions, old business. I had Dory put the York Area United Fire and Rescue Governance discussion on for this evening. We're prepared to have that discussion. As I recall, we were taking a look at some options that that we could propose and going around to the various communities and putting that message out to their boards so that they could understand what some options were to have a better governance structure.
I have one thought on that specific issue. As I reflect on this, I think that proposing options may not be the best strategy at this point until we get some sort of buy-in with the other municipalities that there is, in fact, a problem. And I'm not sure exactly how we do that, whether we have to go and talk to them, but I think, you know, my experience is as soon as you put an option out there of any kind, it's relatively easy for people to poke holes in a particular option or whatever. And we don't know what all the options are. I mean, I've talked about lots of options in an attempt to communicate that there probably are lots of options, but I'm not sure that's where we are in the process right now. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
I know that we will have our reorganization meeting coming out next week. I, for one, would like to go into that meeting with an open mind and see what the composition of the offer board is. We will have a change. At least one member being new to the organization. So I'm hopeful that maybe we can have that meeting, understand the composition of the board, then continue dialogue on this from that level toward the end of sitting down with our member municipalities, not just maybe the representatives, but their board of commissioners, supervisors, whatever.
It would be better to set up a special work session to have this specific discussion.
That, in my mind, that is a tool that we may to have
And we can
use maybe at a later date.
We can do that after, take a look at what the reorg looks like with the new board, and then have that further discussion.
I think so. I would like to see go through that step and see what it looks like.
So if we were going to do that, how far out do we want to push that and pick a date now? Or do you want to wait until we get through the meeting and then have that discussion next?
Yeah, I'd like to get, I personally enjoy, you can weigh in, and Don, you can as well. I think that in my mind, let's get through the meeting and see. Ideally, if you have some dialogue, maybe a month or two, if it's constructive and positive exchange with maybe the township managers and or commissioners and or our supervisors / commissioners of the three municipalities. Great, and have that there's calcitrance and there's no progress or meaningful progress or any dialogue on something. Accelerate that and then we invite them to our work session.
So then why don't we leave this on the old business for now, and we can revisit this to determine that date at future meeting. Are there any items on the old business listing that anyone would like to bring forward tonight?
I am comfortable at this point removing item 1, new business. Since we're underway. And I don't know if it's necessarily an old business listing, but it's start of the year. Would there be an opportunity, Mr. Manager, at some point at one of the upcoming supervisor meetings that we revisit the strategic plan? Wouldn't have to, just maybe put it on here and we just review and kind of see where we are in our presentations. That, whatever time you need to prepare something for that.
So just for the record, and for anybody listening to this in the future, number 1 on the list of old business items is updated comprehensive plan, which is the one that Supervisor Worcester is suggesting that we remove from old business, since we now have an ongoing comprehensive plan committee that is doing that work. Number 2 is traffic calming at 10th Avenue, 11th Avenue, and Whiteford Road. Number 3 is sidewalks in the same area. And number 4 is the American Rescue Plan. And I think we were going to have an update at some point on how we were going to use the funds that we got for being rescued from COVID.
You will have one or a recommendation.
And since we're in winter months right now and doing any draconian traffic calming measures in the 10th, 11th Whiteford area would be a little difficult, as we found in past years. I suggest that we push that off until another, maybe a little bit warmer month.
If you recall, we did install the temporary speed humps, and it really, I forget anymore, Chief, but I don't think it did anything to the speed of worthiness.
So,
Or volume.
I think that we'll have to have a future discussion about potentially going through and having sidewalks installed through the area to keep the pedestrian traffic off the roads.
I think we ought to, my suggestion is to keep this topic on the old business, because as one resident mentioned a few meetings ago, once PennDOT starts I-83, and that'll be in 3 different phases. The middle section is the first phase. So the bridge over the Cadorus, the bridge over the railroad tracks, that section itself is first. Then Route 30 area is second. And then our township or Market Street and south of Market Street will be and North Hills Road will be last. So that's a cut through neighborhood. We have some other neighborhoods, Old East York. And anytime anything happens on Market Street, people cut through Old East York, people cut through Fayfield. I don't know what the solution would be, because the residents have to be able to navigate.
Right, and we had talked
about
about putting some Jersey barriers up and making part of that one, making it a circular type traffic flow that would allow the residents to get out, but not allow people to cut through easily. I don't know.
That is the one solution, is make it more difficult for people, and they won't use it as a cut through. The downfall to that is it's more difficult on the residents as well. So as we experienced, and those residents specifically experienced when PennDOT had the bridge closed down on Market Street for 5 or 6 or 7 weeks. It wasn't pleasant for those folks, but we shouldn't give up on coming up with ideas, but what do you do?
So I would suggest that outside of these meetings, brainstorm, get with the chief, our traffic engineer.
We have already, shortly, I'm going to ask for permission to put a grant into PennDOT for signal improvements on Market Street. And I had a long conversation with one of the folks from the Traffic Signals Division and trying to get this grant together where our communication for our system can tie into their cameras, which they have cameras on 83, they have cameras on 30, with a fiber network that when this happens in the future and there's an incident on 83 and people start diving off of 83 into our township, that they'll see that and then they can take over control of our traffic signals on Haynes Road, Memory Lane, North Hills Road, Market Street, to try to get that traffic through the township.
I hope that works better than the fiber optic cable that was controlling on Zion Road.
It's a squirrel bit through that.
Yeah, well, that was supposedly fixed, right?
It's still not fixed.
Oh, because I was going to say traffic hasn't been fixed either.
It still hasn't been fixed.
I saw trucks out there a few weeks back.
It's in an area that's tough. It's over the railroad tracks by the York container. They're coming up with a plan of how to attack that.
All right, anything else?
I'll just add,
this evening?
for what it's worth, on the 11th Avenue and 10th Avenue, we did highlight that to our comprehensive planning consultants. So they may
as we did a sidewalk plan overall in
For the township,
for the township.
and to catch up on all of the piece parts that we haven't gotten people to install sidewalks over the years.
That's going to change on Davies Drive. Because there's a section that has a 6-month note.
That some people aren't going to be happy about.
Someone's not going to be happy about it. We'll be calling on that shortly.
Anything else?
I have one question, since the manager just brought up Davies Drive. Have we addressed at all what happens at Concord Road and Davies Drive? That intersection.
As far as now, it's a stop sign.
Right.
Davies Drive north, you stop. Concord, that won't change.
Okay. Are we going to be happy with that?
Time will tell, I guess.
Let's keep a close eye on that.
Separately on the other end of the street, John Luciani's working on a signal update, which we'll be bidding that out for signal improvements and ADA improvements at Davies and Market Street. But nothing is going to change at this time at Davies and Concord.
Thoughts, Don?
No, I like what was said. It's something we have to keep an eye on, and probably ought to think about it before it becomes a big problem. Maybe it won't become a problem. I have no idea. It's just worth thinking about.
Just a comment. Schoolhouse in Sunnydale was the resident that lives on the corner that had complained vociferously about people running the stop signs. And I know we put out turn sign on either side. They had a very effective visual. So I know they came down for the winter because of snow plowing, but if we could leave those up as long as we can, I come through that intersection all the time, and it seems like everyone will stop now. if there's still people abusing it.
They are temporary signs.
Yeah.
That will be there permanently, if that makes sense.
Sure.
They can't be there in the winter months because of what you said, the snow, but soon, so Aprilish, end of March, we'll put them back.
I'm sorry, what did the sign say?
They're a yield for, stop for pedestrian signs in the middle of the roadway.
Anything else? So we have one item of new business that we have to, I think we have to vote to put it on the agenda. Is that correct, Charlie? That would be voting on a new member for the Historic Preservation Committee.
Oh, well, yes, if you want to do that, I would make a motion to put it on the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
On the agenda.
Now you got to do something.
Okay. So I don't have a prompt in front of me. Could you tell us your full name? And yeah, so that we can do this. I'm sorry.
From Dan Cole, 244 Auburn Road, York.
So Dan came in for the interview for this meeting, and we're very pleased to have him request to be on the committee, and very happy to have him. So I would make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for your service.
You bet.
You're going to issue him a shovel?
With that, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.